Many similar stories start the same way. In a small town where friendly people don't even lock their doors, life is simple and serene. However, everything changes when a terrible crime occurs, forever altering the lives of the local community. However, usually we're talking about 70, at best 90 years. But what about modern society? It seems that in some corners of the world, people still naively believed in the safety of their environment, and for a young family from Scotland, this became a catastrophic mistake. Alicia Sarah MacPhail was born in Glasgow on October 22, 2011, to young Georgina Lochrain, who was only 17 years old, and 20-year-old Robert Maxwell. She was an unplanned but wanted child. After the birth of their firstborn, the family moved to the quieter and more suitable for raising children Airdrie. However, despite all attempts to build a family life, the young couple found themselves unprepared for such changes, and after 3 months, Alicia's parents separated. Nevertheless, they remained on very good terms, and as the girl grew up, she made it a point to spend at least one weekend every month with her dad in Rothesay. The seaside town of Rothesay is located on the picturesque Isle of Bute, which was considered very peaceful and at the same time attractive to tourists. Lots of beaches, entertainment, sea, and nature. Isn't this a place for a vacation? Robert MacPhail lived here in his parents' house along with his new girlfriend. All family members, grandmother Angela King, grandfather Callum MacPhail, and even Robert's partner Tony McLaughlin were delighted with little Alicia. They described the girl as very friendly, always smiling and exceptionally smart. She liked studying at school, and in her free time, she enjoyed baking sweets with her grandmother. When Alicia was just 6 years old, she went for another stay in Rothesay. This time she stayed for 3 weeks because it was the school holidays. On the night of July 1st, 2018, she fell asleep in her bedroom at her dad's house around 11 o'clock p.m. while she was watching a children's cartoon about Peppa Pig. Tony McLaughlin checked on her, and since Alicia was already sound asleep, she turned off the TV and, closing the child's door, went to her own bed. That same evening, a loud party was happening on the neighboring street. 16-year-old boy Aaron Campbell invited almost 20 guests and got very drunk. This was far from the first incident for Aaron. He moved to the island with his parents and younger sister when he was about 4 years old, and since then his life had not been going well. According to the boy, his father's strict upbringing often affected him. It started with elements of physical and emotional abuse, and the mother drank heavily as the teenage period began. They and Aaron argued more and more intensely, and he would run away from home to smoke or drink. The inevitable consequence of such a home environment was the boy's mental health problems. He exhibited attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, depression, and a tendency to self-harm. Despite this, Aaron was a fit and active young man. He was passionate about video games, but aspired most of all to become a social media star. He was an active user of Snapchat and even released several videos on YouTube. It's no surprise that the boy remained quite popular among his peers, a regular at all the parties in town, and often their initiator. One such party was held at his house on July 1, 2018. The guests had all left before midnight, but one of Aaron's friends came back to check on him because Aaron appeared to be very upset, was visibly drunk, and was expressing suicidal thoughts. The friend offered help to stay the night or something, but the guy refused, explaining that he had just had another fight with his mother, who had been yelling at him all night, and he wanted to smoke. So, he sent out messages to several different people around 1 a.m., asking if he could buy some weed. Among them was Robert MacPhail, from whom he had bought before. At exactly 1:47, he decided to call his girlfriend Tony, but unfortunately, she didn't answer the phone either. Campbell wasn't going to change his plans for the night, so at precisely 1:54 a.m. on July 2, 2018, he left his house with the clear intention of breaking into the MacPhail's residence to steal some drugs. Armed with a kitchen knife, he entered the house without any problems. This might sound wild to most of modern society, especially in our region, but in the town of Rothesay, it was completely normal to leave the key in the front door. Aaron Campbell took just a few steps before he came across the bedroom of 6-year-old Alicia MacPhail, which was the room closest to the front door. Seeing the sleeping girl, Campbell suddenly decided that this was his moment of glory, the opportunity he had been waiting for. Since he was 15, he had been contemplating doing something extraordinary to gain fame and popularity, such as committing a crime. Without a hint of doubt, he picked up the sleeping Alicia from her bed, quietly left the house, and walked with her along the ocean shore. At 6 a.m., the grandfather woke up for work and found his granddaughter missing from her bed. He searched the house, but Alicia was nowhere to be found. She was only 6, and she never went outside without a warning. Moreover, her bicycle was left in the garden. That grandma. Usia immediately reported to the police, and the rest of the family began searching the area. Information about the child's disappearance quickly spread across the island, and thanks to Facebook, within an hour, volunteers from the community joined the police. Tony McLaughlin noticed missed calls from Aaron Campbell, but when she called back, she got no answer. Around 9 a.m., she received a text message from him saying, "Sorry, it doesn't matter," and 2 laughing emojis. Tears. When she asked if he knew where Alicia was, the boy replied, "Oh damn, I'm sure. She hasn't gone far." The Scottish police began searching with a helicopter at 6:55. The Coast Guard reported that they had found a kitchen knife near the MacPhail's house. Just 2 hours later, Jorge Williams, a volunteer who had responded to Callum MacPhail's Facebook post, informed the police that he had discovered Alicia MacPhail's lifeless, naked body in the woods on the grounds of a former hotel. This location was just a 15-minute walk away from her home. It is absolutely impossible to imagine the sheer horror and excruciating pain that the girl's mother felt when, being 110 kilometers away from her daughter, she learned about her child's tragic death through a Facebook news post. On July 3, 2018, a post-mortem examination was conducted. The autopsy results showed that Alicia had sustained 117 injuries, some of which were inflicted while the girl was still alive. Injuries to her neck and face indicated that she had been restrained, and blood near her nose and mouth helped establish the cause of death: asphyxiation. The report also noted that her genital area had suffered catastrophic and severe injuries. After this horrific discovery, the case turned into a murder investigation. Chief Superintendent Hazel Hearn, who is the head of the local police, stated that all available resources from across the entire Scottish police force would be utilized for this major investigation. The police conducted searches at the MacPhail residence, increased patrols on Bute Street, and conducted house-to-house inquiries. Several parts of the island were cordoned off while forensic experts searched for evidence. Investigators initially believed that the killer had remained on Bute, and as it turned out, they were absolutely right. The next day, Janet Campbell, Aaron's mother, in response to the police's request for any information, decided to check the surveillance cameras installed near her house. There, the woman discovered footage that showed her son leaving the house on 2 separate occasions, and then returning during the hours when Alicia went missing. When she asked him where he had been, Aaron firmly insisted that he knew absolutely nothing about the case. Janet believed him and without any doubt handed over the recordings. Polizio. To remove any suspicion from their family, Aaron was first questioned as a witness. He behaved completely calmly, answered all questions, and showed no signs of concern or fear. According to his version, he bought some weed and smoked it all night until he lost his phone. That's why he was returning home, looking for it several times. On July 4, 2018, he was arrested on suspicion of murder and taken to a police station in Glasgow. This time, all questions were met with a no-comment response. The very next day, he received formal charges and was subsequently transferred to prison where he would await trial. Due to the defendant's age, his name was not disclosed for a long period of time. On December 10, 2018, during a preliminary hearing, Aaron Campbell pleaded not guilty to all 3 counts: kidnapping, rape, and murder. Consequently, a trial was scheduled for 2019. On February 11th, the first hearing began, and the prosecution finally presented the available evidence that led to the arrest. Video recordings provided by Campbell's mother showed him leaving the house at 1:54 a.m. on July 2nd and returning at 3:30 a.m. Then he went out again and returned for short periods until 4:07 a.m. completely without clothes. At this stage, it became clear that some of Aaron's words were actually true. He did indeed lose his phone. However, there was a nuance: lost it on the seashore during the murder. Additional CCTV footage that was provided by members of the public showed a person walking along the shoreline at 2:25 and 2:26. The footage captured this individual carrying something in their arms during that time. Pathologist John Williams testified that Alicia's feet were clean and undamaged, indicating that she was carried. Janet Campbell confirmed that several items found on the beach after the girl's death, a fleece jacket, sweatpants, boxers, and a t-shirt, belonged to her son, and a kitchen knife was an item from her kitchen. Fibers from the pants were found on Alicia's discarded pajamas, and forensic scientist Stuart Bailey testified that DNA matching the accused was found on the beach clothes. Additionally, he confirmed that a DNA sample taken from the child's neck had a 1,000,000,000 chance of coming from anyone other than Aaron Campbell. DNA matches were also discovered on the girl's face, on 14 different parts of her body, and on some articles of her clothing. A cybercrime expert, in turn, told the court that on July 3, 2018, Campbell used his phone to search Google for queries: "How police find DNA," and then video webpage titled DNA Evidence Collection. The most striking testimony to all present came from a 16-year-old girl. She testified that just a few hours after the body was discovered, Alicia Campbell recorded herself on Snapchat. She then sent this recording to a group of 25 people saying, "Found the boy who did it." In his defense, Campbell continued to insist that he spent 1 hour on July 2nd buying weed and looking for his lost phone. However, two young individuals demonstrated that they had received messages from Aaron, but they did not meet with him that night. Then a completely new version of events emerged. According to the boy, Tony McLaughlin, Alicia's father's girlfriend, was responsible for her murder, and he was just an accidental witness. According to him, that night Tony cheated on her husband with Aaron in the garage of their house, after which she killed the girl out of jealousy and planted Campbell's seminal fluid on the already dead child's body, using a contraceptive for this purpose. Campbell's lawyers supported this story, insisting that the relationship between Alice and Tony was tense because Robert paid more attention to Alice. They also claimed that Robert physically abused his girlfriend, adding to the strain in the relationship. However, neither the jury nor anyone present believed this nonsense. The murdered girl's grandparents spoke in defense of Tony, claiming that Alicia got along well with her father's partner. Throughout the entire process, Campbell showed no signs of remorse or compassion whatsoever. Instead, he appeared very self-satisfied, impressively calm, composed, and articulate at all times. He claimed that he had never met Alice and vehemently denied killing her, saying, "Absolutely not, I would never do that." He also agreed that only a truly evil person would shift responsibility for such a terrible crime onto an innocent person. One of the significant pieces of evidence was also Campbell's physical fitness. He personally confirmed in court that he could lift a weight of up to 50 kilograms above himself without much effort. Alicia MacPhail weighed 22 kilograms, and the killer carried her along the shore for at least 15 minutes. A fragile girl like Tony McLaughlin would not have been physically capable of doing this. The trial lasted 9 days. The jury deliberated for 3 hours before delivering a unanimous verdict on February 21st. The judge described the evidence against Campbell as compelling and stated that the teenager had committed one of the most brutal and vicious crimes this court had ever heard of in decades. Campbell showed no emotion upon hearing the conviction. After the main process, media representatives gathered to discuss the outcomes. She made a legal statement that the teenager was publicly identified, claiming that such transparency was in the public interest. The judge agreed to lift the restrictions on names for the first time in Scottish history due to the unique nature of the case. Aaron Campbell made another appearance in court for his sentencing on March 21, 2019. Reports that were meticulously prepared by Dr. Jerry McPherson, who is a consultant forensic psychologist, stated that Campbell confessed to the crime in great detail during this period. He informed Dr. McPherson that he was completely satisfied with the murder and further added that he had to suppress his laughter during the trial proceedings. The report also noted that Campbell continued to fantasize about murders, sex with children, and sex with dead bodies. Following this statement, Judge Lord Matthews described the teenager as a cold, calculating, remorseless, and dangerous individual with no empathy for the victims and sentenced him to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 27 years. On September 10, 2019, Campbell successfully appealed his sentence, reducing the minimum term from 27 years to 24. This means that he will be eligible to apply for parole when he reaches the age of 40. 3 judges ruled that the initial sentence was excessive given his age, but they did not dispute Lord Matthews's assumption that the appellant might never be released. Campbell served his sentence at the Polmont Young Offenders Institution until he reached the age of 21 and was thoroughly preparing for his transfer to an adult prison. He attended the gym daily to get in shape because he knew he would not be met with a warm welcome wherever he went. In 2023, it was revealed that a relative of the murdered girl was serving time in the prison where Campbell was to be transferred. Therefore, the decision on his transfer has been postponed indefinitely for now. That's all for now. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Don't forget to like if you found it interesting or just want to support me, and I'm always looking forward to your discussions in the comments, so please write what you think about this. I want to add that this is the first case on the channel from Scotland, and I really appreciate that despite the lenient society and the age of the killer, he still received an adult punishment. And by the way, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You see, it's interesting here, and sometimes even creepy.